Warzone 2 is launching in just a few days, and with that, we know all of our weapons, all of our camos, all that stuff from Modern Warfare 2 will now go over and be transferred into an entirely different form of combat. Battle Royale. Last man or team standing with increased health thanks to armor and other factors. So with that in mind, what weapons do we think will be the best? Naturally, the game's not out yet, so right now we don't know for sure, but in preparation for the Warzone experience, what weapon should you be ranking up right now to get ahead of the curve, perhaps? Last year, we took a stab at this same question, and of the 10 that we talked about, 8 of those weapons were dead on for the coming seasons at some point and were those dominant weapons. So can we do it again this year? Today, we're running down my picks for what I think will be the standout weapons in Warzone 2 in just a bit of time. As we go along, drop your thoughts below. What weapons do you think will become dominant or the best weapons in Warzone 2? Anything in this list you'd add or subtract? Whatever the case, feel free to drop it down below. But bear in mind that right now, there is no right or wrong answer. Just let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. With everything Season 1 related here, we've got a lot to discuss, and we'll keep you in the loop with all of it. We're pushing towards 600,000 subscribers, so if you're part of that 70% of viewers who are not subscribed, I'd love to have you in the community. For now, let's jump into the weapons and what you should be ranking up ahead of the Warzone 2 launch. So firstly, some housekeeping stuff. What makes a good weapon? The basis of this entire discussion. Well, in Warzone 2, it's an entirely different experience, of course, but I think it's safe to say that some of the fundamentals from Warzone 1 may carry over. Things like your damage per round and magazine, rate of fire, recoil control, all these factors contribute to the overall usability of a weapon and the stopping power they afford. We're looking at factors like that just mentioned and seeing what's the best balance of those and what situationally can be your best bet. Again, for simple clarity and transparency, none of these are guarantees, but simply educated guesses to hopefully help you prepare in some capacity. So let's start out with our rifle play. Warzone is a game of more so long to long range in a lot of areas. Al Mazrah is going to be a very large map, as was Verdansk, as is Caldera. So it is something you're going to be playing a lot of situations at longer distances. So the first weapon I want to talk about is the TAC-56, and if we really want to get sort of into the weapon platform, the TAC-V. Now, the TAC-56, of course, is that rifle that you can end up using, but the TAC-V is the battle rifle variant of it, which has a decent bit of punch and really does not seem to lose out too much in regards to the full auto variant of it. Meanwhile, you can use this in semi-auto, but you don't really lose out too much. Now, the TAC, though, that's something that, of course, it is the scar of Modern Warfare 2019, but here's the thing. It's treated properly. It was statistically a great gun within Warzone, though usually you'd probably only see it in solos, maybe duos max, because you only had 30 rounds to work with at max. So you really didn't get a whole big opportunity to use this weapon in Warzone 1, but with Warzone 2 and Modern Warfare 2, we of course have the 60 and 50 round drum mags respectively for the TAC-56 and the TAC-V. So you do have the stopping power and potential to take out 2 to 3, maybe even 4 players before you have to reload, which again, if you're playing trios or whenever quads are introduced into the game, that's going to be incredibly helpful. Beyond that, the Kastov 7.62 is just a weapon right now that is so dominant within Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer. And yes, there is armor that is going to be added into the equation for sure, but when you consider the Kastov 7.62's stopping power, plus also the fact that it's so easy to manage in terms of that recoil control, it's just going to absolutely shred through enemies. Whether you have 1, 2, or 3 armor plates within Warzone, doesn't matter. You're not really going to stand too much a chance. Now, for more closer quarters engagements, I'm kind of thinking that the 74U, the Kastov, again, in that platform, is going to have another introduction here with this, with the 74U being something that for your closer to medium range, that I think is going to be the rifle that we see is the dominant weapon. As we talked about with our best weapons of Modern Warfare 2 video, that's one that honestly I think is one of the best sort of SMG rifle hybrid playstyles you can mess around with, because the 74U does have a lot of the sort of mobility of an SMG, but of course it has the stopping power and the attributes of a rifle as well. So you get the best of both worlds in that. So if you're playing closer to medium range, the 74U might be a great weapon, and honestly might be a go-to sniper support weapon if you want to overkill with that. And finally, the M4, this is just your basic weapon. It's going to do well. It's going to be something that is very easy to use. Is it going to be the best rifle? Probably not, but it is something that is definitely going to be a viable option. As always, this is just that weapon you can pick up and play with if you're a pro or a beginner. Doesn't matter. It's not going to be those sort of training wheel weapons, but it's going to be something you can pick up and do well with. Now, moving along to the SMG category, let's say you get into those close quarter situations. What do you want to be using here with this? Firstly, I think that you cannot go wrong with the Lockman sub. This, again, as we talked about in our top weapons for Modern Warfare 2, the Lockman sub is just an all-around great weapon. It's got some great stopping power, great mobility, and you kit it out with that 40, even 50 round magazine. You can take out multiple players in a squad before having to reload. The Lockman sub, or MP5 if you want to call it that, is what I'm predicting is going to be a nice sort of middle ground between fire rate and damage capabilities. Fire rate, you want to be able to shred through enemy armor, but at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice too much damage as a result of that. So I think finding that middle ground, which very well may be this Lockman sub, is a great way to go. Then the Vaznev 9K is what I'd say is probably the next best SMG here. And the Vaznev follows very similarly to what I was talking about with the Lockman sub, where it's kind of that nice middle ground between damage as well as fire rate, but the mobility is just incredible on both of these. So when you're trying to maneuver these close quarters engagements, you're going to be able to do so with ease, but also shred through enemy armor as well as HP. So definitely would consider ranking this one up here ahead of Warzone's launch. Now, beyond that, I'd say the Mini Bach is also another great option here, your sort of PP90. This, again, more so trending towards perhaps the fire rate, but it's incredibly easy to control as well if you've played around with it in MP. So that's one that in close quarters or potentially even challenging at a distance, though I would not recommend since, again, it's just an SMG. The SMGs seem relatively underpowered at range by comparison to other games, but if you're in close quarters, this one may very well get the job done for you. Now, one weapon that I was considering and maybe kind of just keep on your radar is the Fennec. I was considering this because in the past, it's something we've talked about. We love that fire rate, being able to burn through enemies' armor, but at the same time, it needs more ammo. It's something that the damage per round, damage per magazine just isn't quite where you want it to be with the amount of rounds that you have to work with. So that one is kind of a wild card perhaps. If there is some sort of adjustment to the magazines, we've seen that the magazines in Modern Warfare 2019 to Warzone sometimes were not one-to-one. Some of those weapons had higher magazine options within Warzone, whereas they didn't in MP. So if that happens with a Fennec, it might be something that is more viable then, but for right now, just kind of keep it on your radar, but probably not one of the best ones. Now, in talking about weapons that can have damage potential and outputs, the LMGs are a category that are going to be interesting because I think we very well may see some LMGs crack the air quote meta. We saw it within Modern Warfare 2019, we saw it within Black Ops Cold War, and we saw it within Vanguard. So it is definitely viable and a solid possibility that it happens again. For me, I'd say there are two that really stand out here for this. Number one, the RAL MG, simply just because it has some of the best stopping power in any of the weapons of Modern Warfare 2, but at the same time, it has a very slow rate of fire by comparison. So it's this trade-off on if you can end up managing to land your shots, but also not take too many where flinch will kick you off target, where you may die quicker than you end up expending those shots. It's a lot of things that may be variables in that, but if we're talking sheer damage, it has the potential to crack that sort of top 10, I think. But one that I think may be a wild card and one that might actually get the job done is the Icarus. The 5.56 Icarus, that M4 platform. This is one that seems to have that fire rate, but mixed with the semi-damage of the LMGs. It's not as powerful as some of the other LMGs in terms of damage per round or damage per magazine, but the sheer easy-to-control nature of it with that recoil, the rate of fire, it makes me wonder if this will crack that top 10 as well, being something that is very viable, perhaps even a meta. So rank those up just in case, but honestly, those are pretty good fun to begin with in MP as well. So you'll have a good time ranking those up as is. Now, finally, I want to round out the video by talking about your long range play. Now, we of course have marksman rifles and sniper rifles to work with. The marksman rifles, I'd say the SPR is a great option. Of course, we've seen how dominant that is in MP. If that is going to be something that gets adjusted and nerfed within Season 1, we don't quite know. I kind of expect on the MP side of things it will, but definitely give that a try. Rank that up if you have not done so already. But in terms of your snipers, playing for your long range play here at this, firstly, I kind of want to go with the Signal 50 based off of just the fact that it's a 50 cal round. It is a powerhouse in terms of damage, even if it is a little bit slower in terms of mobility, ADS speed, and maybe that rechamber speed. But at the same time, if you're playing as a sheer sniper, you're not really going to notice those things too much. You will notice, though, the damage and how you can end up getting the one-shot potential perhaps with this come Warzone 2. It's a hefty 50 caliber weapon. I kind of compare this to the HDR. It wasn't the most mobile of snipers, but it was a one-shot down all of the time within the original Warzone experience in Modern Warfare 2019. So you can't go wrong with that option, but if you want something a little bit more mobile, a little bit more snappier perhaps, I'd say the LAB 330 is your next best bet for your long-range play. I'm gonna guess that this one produces a couple of hit markers at the body or say stomach at a distance, but will be able to do the one-shot headshot down. So it's gonna be that trade-off where maybe it's your Car 98K perhaps by comparison, but do you prefer slower but more so guaranteed kills, or do you want to try and be a little bit more mobile and snap onto targets with maybe the LAB? That's really up for you to decide, but those would be my 3 long-range weapons that I would recommend ranking up. And finally, a couple of wild cards. Try out some of the pistols, rank those up, because if we don't have overkill as readily available here and you end up having the ability to take a pistol, well, we might have another situation of like snake shots within Modern Warfare 2, which were just incredibly annoying within Warzone 1. So maybe the akimbo is worth it on some of these pistols, so rank that up if you guys haven't done so already. But beyond that, that is my prediction here for the top 10 weapons right now that you should level ahead of Warzone 2's launch come later this week. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this list? Do you agree with it? Would you like to add something to this list, subtract something from it? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2. Of course, we got a lot upcoming with Warzone 2's launch, DMC and everything like that coming with Season 1, so I'd love to have you in the community if you'd like to stay on top of everything. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name's been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.